So there's quite an interesting fight this weekend as well in the 147-pound division. Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn, or should I say Sam Eggington versus Bradley Skeete. Real interesting one, isn't it, Jet?
Yeah, the thing is with Skeete, he hasn't really fought anyone bar Frankie Gavin. Solid operator though. Box Talk said they've seen him live. He looks amazing on the pads. He looks one of the best natural boxers that the UK actually have. He doesn't go out and never goes out of shape, always stays in shape, and he's a really, really solid boxer. Doesn't have much power, but against Frankie Gavin, some people thought he won. Skeete, for me, is maybe one of those opponents that fight to the level of opponent, if you know what I mean. They never really excel against the journeymen, the cab drivers and those sort of people, but they excel against the elite opponents they are supposed to face, well, for their resume. So, yeah, I mean, this is a really tough fight for me to call. Sam Eggington, he got dropped hard in his last fight against Dale Evans, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he looked defensively, defensive frailties were definitely a part of his game there. And but the last fight, I think it was the fight before against Singleton, he looked fantastic in that fight, and he looked like he absolutely could bully the majority of 147-pounders domestically at least. And of course not Brook and Khan, but the others, if you know what I mean. And it's a tough fight for me to pick. If I had to really pick a winner, I'd be inclined to go Skeete just on boxing and pure boxing ability. But it's a really, really, really 50-50 fight, and it's a really tough fight to call, really hard. What's your opinion on it?
I'm going to be honest, I don't see this as a close fight, actually. I think this is quite a confident selection, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm picking Bradley Skeete here. I look at Bradley Skeete, he could well have beaten Frankie Gavin that night they fought. It was very controversial on the judges' scorecards. I think I had Skeete winning by 1 round, and a lot of people had Skeete to win. Frankie Gavin, he went on, he headlined a pay-per-view card fighting for the world title soon after. That could have been Bradley Skeete. And I feel for Bradley Skeete. Bradley Skeete hasn't had many big nights in his career. He hasn't had much glamour. He probably hasn't earned the huge money. He should have beaten Frankie Gavin that night. If he'd been a little less tentative, I'm sure he would have beaten him. And then, that slight error, and he sees Frankie Gavin going on for a 6-figure payday, most likely on pay-per-view, for a world title. And it's going to hurt Bradley Skeete, that is. He's come back, he's had some very, very low-key return fights on tiny, tiny bills. And, this is the big opportunity for him. This is on Sky Sports. It's a big domestic fight with belts at stake. The winner of this fight goes on to have a relevant fight here. This is a big opportunity for Bradley Skeete. And I think his experience and his boxing class will tell. Sam Eggington, he's all right, but 9 times out of 10 he's fighting someone who's substantially smaller than him. And Bradley Skeete is a massive welterweight. And not only does he have the height and range that Sam Eggington also has, but he knows how to use it. He's a much better pure boxer than Sam Eggington. He's got excellent sort of technical skills. Don't get me wrong, I mean, Bradley Skeete is pretty ABC. He's a tall guy who's cautious, uses the jab, throws straight punches. He's not exactly reinventing the wheel, Skeete, but what he does the basics very, very well. Whereas Sam Eggington, I see him as a bit eager. I see him as a bit defensively frail. I'm not 100% sold on his punch resistance, even though Skeete isn't the bigger fighter. And I just think Skeete can frustrate him, annoy him, and basically outpoint him over the course of a 12-round fight. I'm picking Bradley Skeete here.
Yeah, I'd agree with most of the points you say, to be fair. Skeete, yeah, exactly what you said, to be fair. He uses his skills very well, and I think Eggington might struggle a bit and might get found out here. It's a big fight. It's in Birmingham. It's going to sell a lot of tickets because Eggington's headlining. So at least Eddie Hearn is a plus point for him. also, it's a plus point, I guess, that Eggington's lost and Skeete's lost. So it's not an undefeated fighter where they go all the way to the back of the line. You know, they can rebuild if they have some good, meaningful fights, whoever the loser or the winner is, and they can go on to bigger and better things, whoever the winner is. I mean, European level at welterweight is not the greatest of levels. I mean, if you're fighting at maybe lightweight or something, it's a bit more, it's a bit better. I mean, I think Bundu is fighting for the European title again, so he's kind of the gatekeeper, and that would be a good fight. I mean, a meaningful fight for either of them, whoever wins or loses, and they can move on from there. I totally agree with some of the points you say.
For me, this is such a no-lose fight though for either man. I mean, if Bradley Skeete loses this fight, he's come up short twice at, you know, the Frankie Gavin, Eggington level, and you'd have to say if he loses this one, it's going to be hard for him to really get much beyond sort of British level. As for Sam Eggington, if he loses this fight badly, I could see Eddie Hearn stopping the whole Birmingham thing. I mean, let's not forget, he went to Birmingham with Matthew Macklin, trying to build a big thing behind Matthew Macklin. I think Macklin lost straight away the second they went to Birmingham, you know. The Gamal and Kaliafai brothers, who are Birmingham based, you know, those guys haven't generated much public interest. They haven't, you know, become huge stars. The Birmingham thing is based around Eggington, and if he was to lose in a dull fight to Bradley Skeete, you know, I could see Eddie Hearn maybe giving up the whole sort of Birmingham thing, and you know, it's a no-lose fight for either guy, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Ticket sales are everything now in today's boxing business, and we see it with Josh Warrington, who's fighting Amagas next, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And he's a massive ticket seller, so if he loses, I think Eddie Hearn's going to cash him out against Lee Selby. I think he gets absolutely obliterated against Selby. And ticket sales are everything now in today's business, and it's a shame because we want to see the big fights and they don't happen because of the business, such as Rigo and Frampton, for example. But I guess that's just something we have to accept, if you know what I mean. So
absolutely, yeah.
Some other domestic fights that have been made or, you know, in the works. Matthew Macklin, as you mentioned, against Brian Rose at middleweight, I think it is.
Yeah.
So Macklin's moving up again, and obviously Brian Rose has recently moved up in a catchweight or two fights, and slated for maybe May, I think it is, or maybe even April. What do you think of the fight, and what do you think the path that the potential winner goes down and the potential loser goes down?
For me, Brian Rose should win that fight comfortably. Matthew Macklin really is the definition of a shot fighter to me. You know, he is not looking good whatsoever in his recent fights. He has really got involved in scrap after scrap after scrap with guys that the Macklin of old would be beating with ease. You know, he's a fighter who really is at the end of his career for me. Brian Rose, he's no great fighter either, but Brian Rose at least can move, can jab. He's probably more technically sound. He's probably got better boxing skills at this stage than Macklin, and I think Brian Rose should be able to outpoint Matthew Macklin. I really do. As for the winner of the fight, assuming I've got it right and it's Brian Rose, you know, the middleweight division for Eddie Hearn, John Ryder is an obvious fight. Perhaps the winner of Nick Blackwell versus Chris Eubank Jr. Perhaps even Andy Lee. You know, Andy Lee will be looking for a comeback fight at some stage. I mean, to be honest, whoever wins this fight, I don't see them having any success whatsoever at world level at middleweight. They're both well below world level at middleweight for me. So I think Hearn's going to have to go to the domestic route for them.
Yeah. Speaking of Andy Lee, he did say a week or two ago, I think, I made a video about it, he wants to come back and have his fight in New York.
Yeah.
What do you think he has to offer the middleweight division, and could he win a world title again? What are your thoughts?
Could he win a world title again? No, I think Andy Lee is... don't get me wrong, Andy Lee's a good fighter. But if I was Andy Lee, I'd probably I'd have probably pushed very, very hard to get the Matthew Macklin fight in Ireland, because for me that was the obvious payday and the obvious winnable fight. And I think he'll probably lose that opportunity now, because Macklin will lose to Brian Rose. If Macklin beats Brian Rose, then yeah, that fight's still there. But for Andy Lee, I've noticed a definite decline in his recent fights, and it's probably something to do with the weight and going up and down in weight and etc. But we've seen him dropped in all of his recent fights. I think it's we've seen him dropped regularly. We've seen him outboxed regularly. John Jackson, Korobov, Quillen, Saunders. All of these guys outboxed him. Guys like Quillen and Saunders. Saunders isn't even the biggest puncher, but Saunders almost knocked him out. I'm seeing a definite decrease in Andy Lee. Whilst he's still a decent fighter, I don't necessarily see him having much success against the legitimate top guys. So for me, the money would have been the Macklin fight.
Yeah, good point, actually, to be fair. I know they were going to fight quite a long while ago, actually, when Macklin was in his prime, but that obviously never happened. And then Macklin obviously went the GGG route. So, yeah, totally agree with you there. Another fighter who might be in a bit of limbo is, we'll make this the last point, and Martin Murray. Do you think he can win a world title, or do you think he will get a world title opportunity, as he is with Eddie Hearn, the biggest promoter in Europe? And do you think he can win one? I know Felix Sturm has just beat Fedor Chutinov 2 weeks ago, I think it is, and he won the WBA Super World, whatever, that super title, and Fagan Boots obviously lost, and the Italian guy is holding the regular title. Do you think he could go down that route and win?
Yeah, I mean, super middleweight's become quite a weak division. I mean, you've got James DeGale and Badu Jack, both of whom are probably above Martin Murray at this stage. Although Badu Jack doesn't look completely unbeatable. Then you've got Felix Sturm, who's beatable. D. Carolis, I think is his name, who's beatable. Yeah. Is there another champion somewhere out there as well?
It's those two.
Arthur Abraham.
Facing Gilberto Ramirez next.
Yeah.
And Gail Bradley Undercon.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying Martin Murray couldn't win a world title, but for me, he's typically sub-elite level. If he were to win a world title, it would be because he'd been matched against such a weak opponent like D. Carolis, that it wouldn't really be a proper world title in anyone's books anyway. I just think Martin Murray, offensively, is sub-elite. He's a slick enough fighter, he's got good fundamentals, but he doesn't have world-class offensive skills for me. So he just comes up a bit short. Again, though, there's huge... I heard a lot of rumours that he'd fight Paul Smith. There's a lot of rumours he'd fight George Groves, or maybe even Callum Smith. There's a lot of big money domestic options for him.
Yeah, he did say he wanted a lot of big fights. He said if the world title didn't come, he wanted a lot of big fights. So I do hope he gets a big fight and gets some big money. He probably didn't get the best money for the Arthur Abraham fight, but it always does happen to him. It's happened with Sergio Martinez. It's happened with Felix Sturm. It's happened with Arthur Abraham. It's happened 3 times where he's not gone out and he's not gone and fully completed the job. He put his foot on the gas and he'll win the fight, but he's never put his foot on the gas enough in those fights, and that has been his undoing. Probably the Martinez fight was the biggest robbery out of all of them.
Yeah.
But that happens in boxing, and you're going to get that. We saw it with Victor Ramirez against Oval Mackenzie in Argentina. It does happen. It's part and parcel of life that you just have to accept it. And Martin Murray, probably in those fights when he's in his prime, he has himself to blame. So yeah, that's just my opinion on Martin Murray. He's a good fighter, solid fighter, really good. But at the top level of the division, he'll fall short.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Jet, we covered a lot. I've enjoyed it, mate. I've enjoyed it very much. Guys, please do check out Jet's channel, Boxing Discussions. Hit the like button. Subscribe to both of our channels. Jet, shall I wrap it up?
Yeah, I'll just stop mine now.